What is going on? What is going on, people? It's Community Beacon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Glad to be in the place with you, Mikey.
Mikey, that's my father, but
Yeah, I don't know, man. It just came out. It was one of those things.
uh,
Yeah, we're
uh,
gonna call him Mikey today.
okay. that's that,
My
that's
man said, "Nah, that's my father." Oh
yeah,
no, hold on, we on a different
uh,
show.
that's Mike Seville Senior. He's here.
Oh, what's going
Yeah,
on,
we
Mister Seville? That's what I
he's
call
yeah yeah. Well, uh, that's called decorum, right?
him. All right.
Man, it's tough for me to call older people by their first name, even when they tell me to do it. They say, "Oh, just call me such and such." I'm like,
How
it took
about
some,
Mister Such and Such?
yeah,
No,
it
just
took
call
me,
me Jim. All right, Mister Jim.
yeah.
No, I
And
said Jim. That's okay, Mister J.
listen, that's the exact person who I'm thinking about. I'm glad you mentioned Jim. It's his birthday annual birthday party tomorrow, so I'll be in attendance to that. It's always a great time. And Man, I was just thinking about him in regards to correspondence. I was talking to my pops, and I remember listening to someone once who said, this lady, she was a stay-at-home mom, and she said that she was a, she somehow she just came out and stated like correspondence, like that's what I do. I'm like correspondence, but then I started being around people who were, I would say, probably a little bit more affluent, and noticed how important it was for correspondence to happen, for them to keep track of people's birthdays, for them to keep track of graduations, deaths, etc. Like they're always sending out some kind of, uh, a card or a gift cards or whatever it is, just to allow people to be in remembrance of them. And it's a powerful thing to send someone on special days. Right now there's a lot of people graduating, and if someone, especially if they were a professional in your life or a counselor or whatever, to send that out, how important it is. Um, and so Jim called me today because here's this guy. He's 80 something years old. I think he's turning 87, and he just keeps up with people. And when when he calls you, he makes you feel special. You know what I mean? Like he's like, "Hey, yeah, I got to see you. You like, you got to come around." Like you feel like, "Oh, I'm." He definitely brings out the uniqueness in it. So correspondence and that, and this is a sidebar from how I was getting into this conversation, but uh, you brought up Jim, and I thought about him. Tomorrow's his birthday. Happy birthday, or his birthday party.
Happy
So
birthday,
I'm
Jim.
yeah,
Mister Jim.
excited to celebrate it with them. All right, we'll get into it. What are we talking about today?
Hey, man.
Uh,
We're
I
diving
did.
into presence and power. Is that where we at?
Yeah. Last week we dove into identity. Awesome show. I know I tell you all, we all tell you this a lot, but go back and check out the show. We talked about identity and how it's shaped by our beliefs, our environment, upbringings, and our culture. We talked about those beliefs, that were passed down, pushed on us, and some that were picked up because of survival. And at some point, we said you got to stop reacting. And the brother said, you got to make a decision. You got to decide, right? You got to kill off all the other choices. Like we're not making choices anymore. We're deciding that about our identity, and we're getting into the nitty gritty of it. Um, and the decision is not just a thought; it's how we end up moving, and that's what brings us to today. Like, how are we moving with presence and with power? uh, I was thinking, and whenever I think of this subject, it's interesting. I did a speech, like one of my first speeches in Toastmasters, and I won a bunch of competitions with this speech. And the beginning of the and in the speech, I spoke about Beethoven. Right, this is probably back in 2000, and I don't know, it was the beginning of my Toastmasters career, so membership. So it was like 2010. No, it had to be 212, something around there. And in this speech, I spoke about Beethoven, and I said, when Beethoven comes into the room, the temperature changes, right? Like when he enters a room, his presence and the power that he brings. And it's not like he's entering this room with like a scowl on his face or to be seen, but it's just it changes, right? And then you look over and there might be a huge smile on his face. Maybe there's not a smile on his face, but you notice that the room changes. The brother that happens with the brother on the other side of the screen as well. Like when Joel enters a room, like the mood in the room changes, and there you might see smiles. This is what I experienced. You get smiles, embracing, like it's I'm here, and we're being in this space. So that I mean, you just walk in and it just and you scan the room, and here's the thing: it's some people we can say that some people have it. It's a what do we call it? Like they're gifted with this experience,
Like a
but it's
talent,
something. Yeah, it's like a talent, but it's something that you could master as well. There's certain things
skill.
when well, yeah, it's a skill, and this is really what we're talking about here. When we talking about on Community Beacon, we're saying that if we do it, you can do it, and not only can you do it, but you can master it. And not only you can master it, you can master it in a way that's aligned with yourself. So as we speak on this, as we speak on this presence and power, think about, okay, I'm used to when I walk in the room, no one notices me, and then I just kind of, some or sometimes I got to make myself known by being the loudest in the room and taking up space like we. I mean, it's a million different tricks. However, when you start to mastery is not using these quote unquote tricks. Mastery is taking your identity, going into a place and being aligned with your presence and power, and then you add some of these different things, right? Looking people in their eye while they're having conversations, um you know uh, having a smile when a smile needs to be had. Here's one of the things that you can master when we talk about presence and power. One of the things that often goes unsaid is listening, like lending a compassionate or empathetic ear. Like listening is very powerful. The silence. You ever heard of a pregnant pause? You know how important pregnancy is? That's it. That brings us the pause so much more, like how to pause. So I think as we get into this, not I think I know we will. We'll get into this present power. And by the end of this, I can guarantee you by the end of this show, you'll be able to take something, you'll be able to take it with you, think about it for a little bit, and then be empowered with this information that's being given. Let's
I
get to
love
it.
it. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, without further ado, drums, please. Introducing the co-host,
Oh, we didn't.
Mike Palm Beach, Michael Seville. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's my brother from another. I am Joel Simmons from the Tenacity
Oh,
Foundation, and we're
come
glad
on.
to be here with you today. It is glad to be with you. Glad to be with you, and we're so glad to be on this episode of Presence and Power. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm with you there, Mike. It's all about anchoring ourselves in the now, and even if it feels like a storm, doesn't matter. It's about anchoring yourself. That's what presence is about, being anchored in the now. And then the power of that is what shows up, right? This isn't about pretending
yeah,
or, that you're not shaken by what's going on or by trying to force your way through certain things. It's about showing up, the raw, weary, uncertain sometimes. Maybe sometimes it's confident, whatever it is. It can be with what we consider as a negative or a positive attribute that we may be bringing to the table, but it's about bringing it to the table because that's what you have. And I think that that goes to the words that Mike was just talking about when you were talking about identity. And
hmm,
the question is, how do I want to show up? Who am I bringing to the party, right? Who exactly am I bringing to the party? I love it when you started to talk about the some of the concepts that I would consider maybe to be like negative, right? Being loud and boisterous walking into the room. I don't really feel like that's a commanding presence. That's not the presence that I want to go and say, hey, let me go meet this guy right here who's just forcing himself into the atmosphere, who's making sure everybody knows that he's there. I happen to be watching something recently where there were some people out uh, playing basketball, and there was one individual who just happened to seem to have a word for every single person, every single where. And it was just one of those types of things. It was like, gosh. And the thing about it was that the more he spoke, the more you recognized the lack of his ability. It wasn't that he didn't have skill, but the
Right.
lack of his ability to rise up and meet some of these other guys that he was openly communicating with. As a matter of fact, because he continued to put himself out there, he actually showed up in a way that started to seem like he wasn't as proficient
Mm.
instead of being proficient. Now, mind you, he had already gained the power of his presence. So this works both ways. It's a double edged sword. He gained the power of his presence, even though it began to appear to someone with a little more skillful eye that maybe this isn't the leader of the pack, right? And then on the other hand, I witnessed that there was somebody else that was calm, that didn't wasn't boisterous, wasn't loud, but their skill, when their skill showed up, their ability to contort and to move the ball, their showmanship, their showmanship created presence. You had to identify that individual, and this individual did not speak much of anything at all. Two total different opposing factors, if you will. And I got an opportunity to witness that, and I was like, "Whoa!" Especially now that we're talking about this, it's like the world tugs on us in every single direction, and when pressure begins to mount up, our presence actually becomes power. But if we're out there and we're just like wilding out, like the storm approaching, nobody sees a storm in a storm. You just become part of the noise. That's all you are. You're just part of the noise. But when you become a firm foundation, a pillar, you can stand still,
Mm.
not move. There's a scripture that says, "Be still and know that I am God." Right? That's the word right there. Be still and know that I am God. And it's like, what am I? Why am I thinking that? That was Psalms 46 and 10. Why am I thinking like that? Well, it's because God's presence is so great that sometimes you have to actually stand still just to witness how powerful He is. Because while you're so noisy, it's hard to define exactly what is happening or taking place. So I'm super into this conversation about presence and power because I think that they go hand in hand.
I love that you spoke on this. And here's the some people out here, like he said, loud and boisterous. It's when you're not in alignment with that. Like, there's times when this thing becomes performative, right? Like, and we've probably all been in a space where, especially when you're learning, you're becoming proficient at it. You may be performative because you don't want people to see you less than perfect, right? Some people don't.
Mm,
Some people want to be, so be careful with this. The presence that Joel speaks about, that I'm hearing, is like it's to be rooted, right? Like it's not about posturing, it's not about the personality, it's about just being rooted. It's coming in with alignment. I got it written down here. Presence is when your spirit and your words and your energy, it's all saying the same thing. And there is a calm to it, right? It's not a rah rah thing. Like we're taught that the person who's the loudest sometimes is the one in the right. I just had this conversation with my father recently. Like we're taught that the person who's the loudest, and you'll notice some of these people, especially when the emotions get a hold of you, you start to want to present in a certain kind of way because maybe something that you're hearing or you're around, it's challenging you, right? Sometimes when we're being challenged, especially our worldview is being challenged, something comes up, right? Like, hey, I've been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years of my life. If something comes up, this can't be right. I have to respond. I have to say it, even though it may not necessarily be accurate. I'm a big proponent now of like, I don't want to be right. I just want to be accurate. So if anyone can give me the information to get me towards being accurate, then I'm satisfied with that. I'm content with that. And the brother spoke about the be still and know that you're the Lord in the Bible, the Quran. Interesting, I just had it right here. It says, "Do not fear. I'm with you. I hear and I see." Right. So it's just like it's you don't have to fear these things. That's the storm in the storm that I heard. Right. So it's about this divine presence, and when you know that He's with you, the Most High is with you. You're not chasing validation. You're just walking in the conviction of whatever it is. And that's the presence. Presence is when you're just showing up with this conviction, right? And then we go to the power part of it, because I think it's going to be interesting when we start to look at power, when we're all power without presence and when we're all presence without power, right? Power is not noise. It's the same thing. It's rooted, not the same thing. Excuse me. It's authority rooted in truth, right? It's restraint when you could lash out. Like that could be powerful, right? It's the action you could stay safe, action you could use to stay safe, and it's holding the line when everybody else is folding. Like it
Mhm.
shows up, right? And guys, I go back and forth. So listen. So I had Second Timothy written down here. It says, "For God hasn't given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind." So it's already given to you, right? So there's no need to go looking for it. You don't got to go find it. I think we spoke about this recently about love. Like love, you don't have to wait on it. I don't have to wait for someone to give it to me, right? And someone doesn't have to wait on me to give it. It exists in the space if you allow it. This is not this is no one has to give you. We spoke about this last week. No one has to give you permission for these things because it was already given. So just speaking with Beethoven yesterday, he was like, "Man, I've always been this way. I've always had this surety, right? In his mind, like I've always done it." There's times when things come to challenge you, your emotions get caught up in it. Sometimes we don't, and then we don't look at it from I like to say, take a step back and look at it from like a wide angle, like see the entire thing and say, okay, well, there's times when, a couple of times when or, maybe for a day, or some people for a week or for a month. But when I look at the overall picture, I've always had these things. So, you don't have to ask for it. It's already been given. Power without presence, right? It's control. And then presence without power, which I'm working on. Because at this point in time, for me personally, it's like I'm really working on discernment of when I speak out, because I know how much weight I carry when I speak out. When I say something, it carries weight. And there's times when I'm just not saying anything. I remember a young lady telling me once, she said, "Well, watch people, you'll just watch people walk over a cliff and you won't even go out to get them." And I told her that back then. I was like, "Well, I'm standing here." You know what I'm saying? Like, they should have looked at me, right? But then there's times when if a person is walking over that cliff and they look at you, right, and they're looking at you for guidance, we about to get into some masculinity here. When they looking at you for for guidance because they don't have it, it's a lot of people walking around without this information, without this knowing and this understanding and this being, and they're looking for it, right? And you can, what's the bird that stick his head in the sand? Whether it's the ostrich or one of
Ostrich.
yeah, it might have been ostrich. You can stick your head in the sand, but what the world is lacking is this guidance, and not from a controlling point, dominating. This is one of the distinctions I'm making is between having dominion and dominating. I'm not here to dominate anything. I'm here to have good stewardship over all this stuff. And part of this good stewardship is being able to discern and say, okay, this person is looking at me for guidance. And no matter how they act, because some people don't even know how to ask for guidance.
Hmm.
In their mind, the guidance to them is weakness. You ever had that? I know you have, brother. You've seen people who like, and some people think it's a strength. Like, I don't ask for nothing. Nobody's asking for nothing. Okay, that's good. But the more we know, the more we can reach out and say, hey, everything is all right. Right? There's times when the brother calls me and says, hey, I'm checking in. Right? Everything is all right. I don't expect the brother to be a mind reader, but he's checking in because something allowed him, something gave him that signal. I need to go check in on Mike, right? Or maybe we're just having a certain conversation. It's like, all right, well, let me ask, hey, brother, is everything all right? And do it with the most and be as genuine as possible. Right. I think that's another part of it. Being genuine, and you can be loud and boisterous and humble at the same time. Two things can happen. This is one of the skills that we have to matter. Um, but this presence and power, we need both in this season. Uh, and probably we've always needed it, but I definitely know it's needed now.
I, you just said something right there that just had me really wanted to take a step back and think about that thing right there just for a moment because, like you said, when you started talking about the
Hold on,
loud,
hold on, hold on, hold on. I just want everybody to see the transition that just occurred right then and there. All right, brother, go ahead. We getting better. We,
we're working on something here. We're working on something. So you're talking about the loud and the boisterous piece, and then I started thinking about the quiet and the calm individual. And you had mentioned this earlier, and I thought it was really powerful that you said that because it's about being you. That's that's the ticket. Like when I know that the person that shows up like this, and that is their authentic self, then I can judge whether or not within my own heart if that individual is being honest, if they've got integrity. When I discover that the person that I met was wearing a mask the entire time, there's loss of integrity, there's loss of trust, there's loss of power. You don't have power any longer because I, I pulled your coat. I know who you are now. And you're not the one that's showing up. That's a facade. So being present is about embracing that present moment. I think it was he taught about the true power is all about embracing the present moment, right? Because it unlocks a way of leading, a way of living, and it's grounded in clarity and peace.
Mm,
And that's what stillness is. Stillness is it's like another word or another way of stating peacefulness. And clarity is so important because going back to what we discussed last week when we talked about identity, it make it means so much to know the who am I in the midst of all this. Now, don't get me wrong, you cannot know who you are. You cannot know who you are, and you can find peace in that because to some people it's not that important. They're just glad to be, glad to live, and that's fine, especially if that's working for you. But when you get to the crux of it and you realize something is still yet and still missing, maybe that's a point where you would start to dig a little bit deeper to understand who you are, what your purpose is, where you're going in life. Because all these things kind of link up. They're a part of the same chain. So I love that you mentioned that and that you started to dive into that because you mentioned a few other things. Power without presence is control. And then you said presence without power, but you got to remind me what you said at the end of that part because I didn't have that in my notes.
It's passivity, being passive.
Because being passive. So I mean, these are that's gosh, man, and these are the this is the way that we are responding to our environment.
Yep.
It's the way that we're treating the people that are in our lives. And this is how we're holding ourselves. Not knowing this, not it's not even about identifying.
Mm.
You don't have to identify with your true self. But like you said, Mike, alignment, I think you said when the spirit, your words, and your energy come together, they all align. At that point in time, we're no longer posturing, but we've been rooted in what we are. And so like these things are happening. You don't have to identify with how you present yourself or who you are. But it does not mean that that is not your identity. It just means you don't know it yet. And because of that, it may be hindering how you lead, how you raise a family, how you raise a child, how you work for an employer, how you work with employees, how you work with peers, how you gain movement and momentum inside of any type of work because you don't realize who you are. You have no idea when you are present. You don't even know that you showed up. Got no idea. You may have power and don't know it. You may be moving things in the atmosphere and don't know it. It's like, Mike, you were just talking about the words that we say. Some people throw caution to the wind, say whatever they want to say, because they have the ability to say it. But everything is not edifying. The scripture says, all things are expedient. Paul said, all things are expedient to me, but all things are not edifying. So just because I'm smart enough to know something, because my IQ gives me the capacity to know something, does not mean that it is appropriate for me to say what it is that I know at that moment if I desire to be edifying to those that are around me. If I don't care, say whatever you want to say. Like the example you were talking about, if you're standing next to a cliff, speak or don't speak. Right? I used to love the old kung fu movies. Sometimes they didn't speak at all. When you walk by the kung fu master with the gray hair, you stopped. There was power in his presence. He did not have to speak. It's the same way with fathers that realize they have that ability. They don't always have to say, "Oh my gosh, you're doing." No, they just give a look. My kids used to tease me, Mike, back in the day, man. They used to say, "Yeah, you got this certain look," and I was like, "What's the look?" And when they did, I'm like, "Man, get out of here! Get out of here!" But that look caused them to stop and reconsider their entire world. And that was just my presence showing up powerfully in my children. What you say, bro?
Jesus. The
That's not
brother,
what you're going to say.
how about that? Let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you all that we're all having this conversation here. And this is heavy. This is some the brother Dre say it's heavy. When it's heavy, it leaves footprints. This is some stuff that leave footprints. And I think sometimes I just want to be I want to give the moment the levity that's there, right? So the because we're talking about this stuff, but it's some heavy things that we're talking about, right? This is not you're not a real man if you don't. make money,
Mhm.
right? This is not you're not a real woman if you can't and this is heavy, can't have kids or something. Like this goes beyond that. This is timeless. This is that 80, 90-year old man that's not as strong as he was. That's not, you know, in he's not out there making X amount of money, right? He's 80, 90 years old and he still has this weight. He still has this power and this presence, right? My father's in town yesterday, and we were, me and him go back and forth all day long. Like we're just having these frank conversations about life and our family and so on and so forth. And he's joking with me. He said, "Man, you sound like, you know who you sound like?" I was like, "Who?" He was like, "You sound like Donald Trump right now." That's what he said. I said,
Oh man, that's
"Yeah,
gonna start
yeah,
something right
yeah,
there.
yeah." It's not, listen, the brother's neither here nor there. He could have said Donald Trump. He could have said Joe Biden. It's all the same to me. But
That's gonna start something too.
yeah, yeah. He said you sound like Donald Trump. I said, "Oh yeah." I said, you know what? I'm a remnant of the old. You know what I mean? That's now I'm now we just talking. We just kicking our stuff, right? Like I'm a remnant of the old. I said, you know who else I sound like? He said, who? I said, your father. I said, you can. I said, I don't sound like your father right now. I'm talking about uncle, the grandfather that I talk about that, you know, was there, 80, 70, 80 years old, giving that hard truth to you. You know what I mean? Like speaking on stuff, not the most educated person, right? Didn't go who I don't know if he would have went to the equivalent of high school, right? Back then you had to get to working, right? You went to school, okay, good. You learned how to read, you learned your arithmetic, how to count, whatever, but then you got to get to it. So this is what I'm talking about is a man who spoke with wisdom that had the presence and the power. Even when he was joking, it was like it was taken seriously. I could hear his voice right now in my mind, right? Like some of my fondest memories. I used to forget my book bag all the time. He would pick me up from the bus stop back in Jersey, and they tell this joke to this day that I jumped off the bus and I'm just walking towards it. I left my book bag on the bus like I was used to doing, and all he did was go like this. He just sent his hand out, like, get back to go get it. Didn't say nothing, didn't have a word. Had to run back to the bus stop. Hey, let me get me back, let me get my and get on there. And we're still and jump in the car, and it's still like this. It's still weight, and it's not like it made me feel like I was, less than. It was just the weight of his power and his presence. This is what we call wisdom. Um, brother, you brought up losing. Now that you are pretending, the integrity is not there. Here's something else I
Mhm.
talk about is you lose your credibility,
Yes.
right? The brother spoke about, the brother says something about the power that you don't know. No, you have it. I did not just read the Bible verse for you. It was already given to you, right? The power was given to you. You have it. Now are you choose you're losing it, or let me say you are you're not being intentional with it. We speak about that quite often. So you're speaking something out there. You're doing something. You're not being intentional with it. I heard a lady recently, which I thought was interesting. She said, Carolyn Miss, as a matter of fact, has an awesome show, or older lady, and she talks about why people don't heal and how you can. Why people
Mm.
don't want it. Not even don't heal, don't want to heal. Right? Like they really don't want. And she goes and she talks about something that's called woundology. It's a very interesting um uh, it's a very interesting subject when you look at it. And she said they asked her if she prays. And she said, "Well, the way that I look at prayer," she says, "like all my thoughts are prayers." Right? Like that's how she phrased it. And it's interesting because it's hard for us to control our thoughts, right? Because you get a thought that pops in your mind from time to time. And, you may think of it as a good thought or a bad thought, but it popped in because of experiences or whatever the case may be. And the brother said, so I said, okay, well, if thoughts are our prayers, but it's hard for us as thoughts, we can start to kind of reframe it But what comes from the thoughts is the words come from the thoughts, right? So you may not necessarily be able to do everything with your thoughts, control your thoughts in that kind of way. Like what thought pops in next. I'm not saying you can't. What thought pops in next, you may not necessarily control that, but the words that come out of your mouth, you can start to become careful with. You can start to communicate that this is goes into communication, but the words that are coming out of your mouth, because the words that are coming out of your mouth could add to your credibility or subtract from your credibility in another person's mind, right? And we tend to do that. We tend to do that on this show. We'll say something and was like, well, not necessarily that word. We'll try to find a better word for it to make it, so that we can communicate this more thoroughly, not just for you, but for me, because your words becomes things, right? You're speaking yourself, right? Like you're speaking these things. You can speak these things into existence. So how do I frame these? And some of us are speaking, what's the life and death is in the tongue. The power of life and death is in the tongue. So are we speaking intentionally or unintentionally? Are we speaking life or are we speaking death? Right? Are you doing this? And a lot of us are doing this unintentionally. So just so be careful of how we start to speak. Um, what I was thinking this morning, that came to my mind was our life being an extension of our complaints,
Hmm.
right? Like there's a saying, it says your life is an extension of your complaints. And a couple weeks ago, I was like, man, I need to be careful about this complaining, right? I'm having a conversation with the other Mike, right? It's all quiet. I'm having a conversation with Mike, and I'm like, you're doing a lot of complaining over there, brother. What's going on? Like what is this about? Like you tend to respond or react with a complaint, right? This is the reaction, my first reaction, and the other Mike is talking to the other Mike and saying, well, this is hasn't went this way, and this is the control. This is me trying to dominate. This is not having dominion. This should have went this way, and this should have went that way. That should have went that way, right? And the other Mike respond back to that Mike number two is like, yeah, but did you wake up? Yeah, I did. You going crazy? You think you're going crazy today? No, no, you definitely in your right mind. You walking around? Yeah, you walking around. Yeah. Did you get to the gym? Yeah, you went to the gym. Yeah, but the workout wasn't as good as it could be. But did you work out? Yeah, I worked out. Okay. So how I appreciate, matter of fact, first off, I appreciate you for bringing up these concerns, because we're not walking around like Pollyanna. Like, we're not walking around like everything is great, right? Like everything is just, hey, everything is just joy. No, I appreciate you bringing, these are some things that we can improve on. Like we can, so now what I'm using you, Mike, number one, because I appreciate you and everything that you're doing, I'm going to take what it is that you're saying as just a way to say that, okay, well, these are things that we need to improve on, right? This is a marker to be improved on, but we need to pay attention, like what kind of complaint it is. And then here's the Most High working like he needs to work, like only the Most High can do, is Leviticus. And this is where this complaints thought came from this morning. I was in Leviticus this morning and I'm reading Leviticus 12, and and he said, the people in are in the, what are, not the Holy Land. Before they get to the Holy Land, they're traversing, right? They're
Wilderness.
say it again.
The wilderness.
Yeah, they're in the wilderness, and he's already dropping this manna from the sky, so they're eating and so on and so forth. But they're complaining that we want meat.
Mhm.
We want meat. You dropping this miracle from the sky is not enough, right? Like we were walking,
The
we
original protein bread.
you know what, I don't chewing about what they was used to make cake and all. Like when I think of manna, I'm like, man, that thing must have been delicious. That's what when I. This is just one of my thoughts. Is like, man, that thing must have been like delicious. You know, you can use it to make cake. By the way, sidebar, I'm making like ice cream and these custards lately. Like they're just. I make ice cream now, guys, and it's off the chain. All right, get back to this manna. You can use it to make your stuff or whatever, and it's nourishing, right? I can go into health part as well because when we start talking about this food thing, like when we get to the point where food is just is a whole different thing, and we're not thinking about nourishing, right? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad got a book. He calls it "Eat to Live." We flipped it. We said we live to eat, baby. You know what I mean? We want to eat when we celebrate. We want to eat when we down, but we're not. We don't even think of because it's so convenient and it's given to us. It's on a platter. We can just go get so much selection. Now it's like we need to take this food. We've changed the relationship with food. We're no longer using or having the things that nourish our bodies, right? Which is the most important thing. I can't wait till we start talking about health. I'm so excited about that.
Mhm.
But now you're complaining to God that we don't care if it's nourishing. I want meat. And it says in that same chapter, it's like God got angry. Like he's angry because what you're to me it's almost like I'm not enough, right? Like what I'm giving you is like like I'm giving you the nourishment it is that you need, but you're telling me about what you want. So God got angry and they were punished. So this morning was like, well, this brought this complaints thing back to me. I'm like, well, my life is an extension of my complaint. They was in the wilderness for a long time. I have to start watching these complaints. I'm not saying we're always going to have some complaints, but we need to start really getting grounded and this goes into the presence. We need to I'm present and thinking about these thoughts that are coming up in me in regards to these complaints and what it is I can do with them to kind of not look at them that way. It can't be a just a straight a complaint, us just complaining like we and then it comes out of your mouth, right? Because it's going to start in there, then it comes out of your mouth. So let's getting back to the word, and you become what you speak, and we become our word. I don't want it. I don't want it. So when we start talking about these words that are coming out of our mouth and how we can get better, this is what this once again, and I'm letting the brother take over. This community beacon is about getting this percent better, just one movement better. Well, how are we getting better if we're talking about the same things that we've been talking about? This me and my pops for the last 30 to 40 years, right? We've been
Mm.
talking about in 92, you were talking about Bush. In 2002, we were talking about his son. In 2012, we was talking about what Barack ain't doing. In 2020, we were talking about Joe Biden. He needed to do better. It's been in the entire life, but so it's just an extent of our complaint. It ain't gotten better because we haven't decided to be present in this power. Now we know, right? This information that we're giving, this health journey. Like I said, I can't wait till we get into this health journey thing. And then the thing is about it is it's going to give you a lot of choices because once you stop complaining and start saying, okay, I am, using this, getting into this power of this information and getting 1% better. Now, us as men, because there's no guidance, it's not coming from the men. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. We can go out and give out this information, right? Same thing with last year, I was going through family court and I could have been mad. I could have been as mad as anything about the system and what I feel people are doing to me, and how did I get myself here? So on and so forth. What I did was I got myself into this information and freely giving it out. Go back a couple months ago, maybe what was it, October, maybe something like that.
Yeah, it
When
was like,
a whole a
mhm.
whole family course series. If you go back and do that within yourself, you'll have a whole different thought process about it. And here it is, May, and we will add forgiveness to all of this stuff. It's not that same feeling because I'm not looking at it the same. But that's not allowing anyone, we say this, to take away our power. or our what are our presence. No one can take it away. You're freely giving it by your
Mm.
thoughts, your complaints, and what's coming out of your mouth. All right.
Or unconsciously giving it.
Unconsciously. Yeah. I see, brother, you say unconsciously. I started saying, I think people are willfully I mess with my father. I say, I think you're trolling me right now.
It's trolling, huh?
Yeah, I say, I, t- I tell him, you're trolling me because
Yeah.
what we dealing with is the rejection of information. We're dealing with what I call it. I call it willful ignorance. Like we're willfully doing these things because it challenges your work. It challenges a worldview, and once you start to get into those five biases that we have, and this is a part of mastery of self, right? That's what I was explaining to my pops yesterday as well. Is the five biases. One, I think I mentioned it a couple of times, but the first bias is going to be your self interest. Once you start thinking that you're doing things that and it's not out of self interest, that's one. That's the first one. Then the second, and I'm doing them just in how it's scaled. The second one is white supremacy. You can't, this tool has been used for so long, it's indoctrinated. It's there. You got to reckon this is part of the things that you use to check yourself with. So you self-interest. How am I self-interested in it? It is some kind of way. How is white supremacy involved? There's something there. Three is politics. How does politics come into this? It's in there. Religion. How is religion identified with how do I identify this with the religion, my thought, my view or ideology in religion? That's four. And number five is gender, and so those are the five things that a person can use to check themselves because you have something. These things are helping to control any context of your life, right? That it's there. This is a bias that you have. A part of mastery is to understand your own bias, your own blind spots. It helps when someone can point them out to you because we're all great at pointing out with somebody else, like, hey, you got a bias there, buddy. I don't understand how he doesn't see that. But when you in it, you can't see the forest through the trees. So you can use those five things and you kind of say, okay, if I didn't have this feeling about this, if I didn't have this feeling about supremacy, if I didn't have this feeling about religion, I didn't have this self-interest thing, if I didn't have this gender thing going on of how I view the world, the way that I was indoctrinated, how would I feel about these different things? And it'll come up. But you start to these are some of the things that you're not supposed to talk about, right? There's certain things that we don't talk about. And if we don't talk about these, because if you do talk about them, people automatically shut down because this is touching someone. You telling me that my mother told me about Christianity and the way she taught me about Christianity, and you're telling me that this may not necessarily be accurate or true. Nah, it doesn't. I've already accepted this thing. Like you're a fool. This is what it is. So it takes a lot of time and patience, but that's an entirely different thing, brother. Go ahead. I'm wrapping it up.
I got you, man. I got
Yeah.
you. I mean, I want to get back to a couple of the things that you were talking about. Um, okay, so let's start off with this piece. There is a scripture in the book of Matthew, the 15th chapter. And scribes and Pharisees come up to Jesus and they criticize him for what the disciples are doing. And the disciples, they're eating corn or, they're eating something, but they didn't wash their hands. And so they pull them up on, transgress. They pull them up on, you know, why are they going against what we've taught? Basically, that's what they want to know. The tradition of the elders, right? And this is narrative, kind of like what you were just talking about when you said, "My mother taught me this," and you were referring to Christianity. Maybe not in the direct sense, as in that was an issue or not, but just you gave it as an example. And it's like, well, why do the disciples transgress the traditions of the elders? And it's like, well, everybody in the city everybody that was, Jewish at that time, Israel at that time, they all had to follow whatever the scribes and the Pharisees stated. There was a there was a difficulty in reading whatever the scripts were, because the time before, everything was passed down verbally. So you had to remember all of this stuff. It was all verbally passed down. There was a time when Moses would show up and he would go through all the laws and all the rules and regulations, and he would have to say this stuff verbally, up until the time when they started to record these things down. Because I mean, remember, just think about it. The first time he ever recorded something was on a tablet. They're not going to put 613 laws, rules, and regulations on a tablet. Who's going to carry that? Nobody's going to carry that. Nobody's going to carry that much stone. So, time passed and they had other ways of writing stuff down. Nonetheless, let's get to the point, right? So these traditions that came up by the elders were like, wash your hands before you eat. Very simple, you know. And Jesus' response to them was like, well, you transgress the commandments of your of God by your tradition, you know. And he brought him up on something totally different. But the thing that he brought him up was the one thing that God really wanted them to do, right? 10 Commandments, honor your father, your mother. Anyway, when they got to the end of this conversation, that's where I bring the part in, is like, people are honoring with their mouth, with their lips, with their words, but their heart is nowhere near where he was. And so, as people, many times we come into an event, into a situation, and the things that we say are really just vanity. It has nothing to do with anything. We're seeking out some type of vain um, recognition. And he went on to say later on, he said, listen, this is what I want you to understand. Whatever you put inside your mouth, it goes down to your belly, out to the drought. But the things that come out of your mouth, those are the things that proceed out of your heart. And so when you start to mention this piece, when you're talking about, your thoughts, I'm not going to go into that, but your thoughts, it's very important, because the thoughts can spiritually can be perceived as something that comes out of your heart. All right. So we have to talk about that in another case, another day. But your thoughts and your heart, there is 18 inches difference, but there's a whole lot of synchronicity that we won't get into. But the thing is that when it comes out of your heart, when it comes out of your mind, these are the things that are your true makeup. That's your true makeup. So either one, you're falsifying what you're saying so that you can prove something, which means that you're lying and you're disingenuous, right? So you're a pretender, you're false. And going down that road, you end up being like the individual that you were just talking about, Mike. Less credibility when I figured this thing out, right? Never believe in that guy again. Unfortunately, car salesmen have ended up taking on that entire persona, because so many people were found to be delivering false vehicles and doing stuff shady and everything like that, that people generally don't believe in car salesmen, no matter what. It's just a very difficult profession to be in and actually be considered to be someone that is honest, right? Same way with lawyers in many cases. People just don't believe that they're honest, even if they are, right? So it's one of those things, because of the words, they end up becoming your presence, or like you. And I think that you mentioned that earlier. And so this lesson right here is where we bring it in. It's like, reframe.
Mm.
This is where we change the narrative. So it's important, because going back to like, and guys, I'm sorry if some of this stuff just kind of like melds into some of the other episodes that we had, but then I'm not sorry, honestly, because these are core principles that we should all have. And when we don't have these principles, then it makes it difficult for us to make educated decisions. It makes it difficult for us to be able to maneuver in life, because we simply don't pay enough attention to whatever is going on. We just don't. So a scripture, another scripture, 2 Corinthians. This is what it says in 2 Corinthians. It says to examine yourself, whether ye be in the faith, prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves? Woo! Okay, that's deep right there. Now, we can use that scripture and we can go deeper into it and we can talk about how that Jesus Christ is in you, except you be reprobates. But I would just want to take the very beginning of it. Examine yourselves. This is where we're supposed to be looking inside of ourselves and figuring out, like EQ, emotional intelligence teaches this. You need to think about what you think about. Why? Because what you're thinking about may not be what you need to think about. It may be the very thing that is driving you down the wrong pathway. What you are thinking about can be the destruction of yourself. Why? Because, listen, you may not be at the highest form of self. You do need to learn how to trust yourself, but you also need to learn when you're telling yourself a lie, when you're not doing anything good for yourself. The number one place to be present is in self. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, when we start talking about the presence showing up, that we need to take a step back, peel back the layers of this onion, and get to the seed of the matter. Because the bottom line is if you're not present inside this guy, inside the guy that's inside the mirror, inside the guy that's underneath the baseball cap, inside the guy that's wearing the shirt that you put on this morning, inside the guy that put on the shoes that you bought 3 weeks ago, inside the guy that has, that's wearing the watch that you bought. If you're not inside of that being and you don't know what's going on, you are not present. So you cannot show up as being present before anybody else. You are absent even when you are present. And because of that, there is a great disconnect. This is the reason why there is no alignment. This is the reason why you cannot go in a straight line. There's one scripture that says, "He maketh the straight, he maketh the crooked straight." We have to make the crooked straight, but we cannot make the crooked straight if we don't even know it's crooked. There's power in this.
Mm-hmm.
There's power inside of this. And so when you start to reframe it, you have to look at it. What'd you say 2-3 weeks ago, Mike? Become aware. This is the first thing.
First thing.
Become aware. Then how do I reframe? Change the narrative. How? There's 4 things. We've talked about this multiple times, and Mike just mentioned a few of them. One of them is the words that you are ingesting, whether through the ear, whether through sight, right? Whether osmosis or being in an environment, whatever. However you are receiving words, you need to reframe it. What does that mean? It means evaluate the words. It doesn't mean that the narrative of yesterday was wrong. It just means that it's now time, you've gotten old enough, it's now time for you to study, and you need to adopt it for your own because you decided to, not because it was placed on you.
Mm.
Right? It's like a hermit crab. When he grows out of his shell, he discards it and he goes and gets a new one. He finds a new home. Why? Because if he keeps on wearing the old one, it will not protect him from the dangers. We are not protected from the dangers. Why? Because we are still wearing the old narrative. We haven't gotten rid of it. It may serve us because just like a hermit crab picks up one shell, another shell is probably made of the same type of minerals. It's just that it doesn't fit anymore. You need more information. So another thing is the people that we're around. People shape the way we are. You can say it is, you can say it isn't. But you hang around people long enough and you will, again, by osmosis, by being in the same room, it's even in law, you're guilty by association. Don't go joyriding, young people. Somebody steal a car and say, hey, hop in. Say no. You could be the one who ends up in jail because you're guilty by association. You should have known better. You didn't know what kind of person it was when you got in that vehicle. You didn't know that they didn't have a vehicle before you got in the vehicle. Did you really believe that they borrowed it from their parents, but yet they're staying out all night long? Isn't that odd? So many things. But why? We're not examining anything. We're
Hmm.
just doing. And because we just do, we wind up in trouble. That's two. The third thing, some type of emotional experience that causes it rocks you, it moves you, it phases you, it displaces you, it causes you to think in ways that you have never thought before. You got to pay attention to these moments and crystallize these moments inside of your life. Why? Because these are the atoms of life that change existence. That's why. They change existence. In one split second, you could go from being a thug on the street to a father. And you didn't even realize it. You didn't even realize it because something impacted you so greatly emotionally that it caused you to change your narrative. You had a different thought process. And the last one is your environment. And that's a mixture of all the rest, but it's more than that. Mike was talking about the zip code a couple of weeks ago because just being in a zip code can cause you to miss out or to gain certain attributes in life. Just being in a certain zip code. You don't even have to be friends with anybody. There's just different things that are happening. It may be the ducks walking around outside that makes you think differently about life. Because when all you see is rats outside, and then you go somewhere and there's swans outside, you will think differently. It
That's a
does
good
not
one.
have to be so complex. Let's not make these things complex.
At all.
Environment makes a huge difference. Take all this information. I was just talking about this with the youth in the teen summit a few days ago. Take all this information and then you bring it home. Do not just keep it simply because it excited you. Research it now, verify it, and then check it against one or the other. There's four different things there. So check them one against another. Check your environment against the people. Check your people against the words. Check your words against the emotional impact that it had on you. Figure this thing out. Deep dive into it. Come and listen to Mike. Come and listen to me. Go and listen to motivational speakers. Go find a podcast. There's so many different ways to get the information. That's where I agree with Mike. It's because people just don't want the information. So because of that, you're not unconscious to these things. You're just disillusioned. You did not decide that you wanted to pursue or examine the things that will make a difference inside of your life. And because of that, you have the raw end of the stick. And I'm sorry for you, you know? I mean, but you have the opportunity today to hear these things. And then I'm gonna end this little piece with this. Then this is when you take control. This is what we call agency. Become your own agent. Take control. Be the owner of your building, this building, your temple. Be the owner of it. Be the owner of it. And search it out. We sing a song, Search Me, Lord. Search me, Lord. Shine a light from heaven on my soul. If you find anything that shouldn't be, take it out and strengthen me. Because I want to be right. I want to be whole. I want to be saved. I must be whole. Search me. Start the search on your own. Start it on your own. I trust in me. I trust in God. And I trust in the process that He has me in. That's what gives me firm foundation. If you want to take that and run with it, please do, because that is going to be a great help. Last thing, the gatekeeper. Mike said it. You're like, we're speaking these things. When you have agency over yourself, You can become a gatekeeper, not just to your mouth. Become one to your eyes. Become one to your ears. Become a gatekeeper. You now have the ability to choose between what goes in or goes out, or you can decide to never allow it enter or exit. Because now that you have presence, you have power. And with power, this is so cliche, come great responsibility. I had to say it.
I hope they don't delete us because he said it. But
No, man, it's in the
it's
Bible. They
it's,
got it from the Bible. Spider-Man did not start this stuff, or Uncle Ben did not start it.
Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben is thinking about it. But listen, not all truth told in what the brother just said. And I want you all to come from a place of like especially as you search yourself, is like not about judging yourself in some kind of, oh God, you know what I mean? I can't believe I did, because we can get caught up in that too, right? There's times when we think back like, how could I have been like, why, how did I allow this to happen for so long, right? Well, it's because you were making choices as opposed to making decisions, right? We were all out here making choices. Heck, some of our choices were made so early in life. We signed this invisible contract with ourselves so long ago. We were 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And then you find out that the brain isn't fully developed until you're 26. So now
Come on.
if
Yes.
someone talk, if you talk to me about something that happened with that Mike between 26, I don't know why. I forgave him. I hope you do too. I was my brain wasn't fully developed. I'm using that one. This is when science helps you out. I'm using that one. Now, then when you so what when you take away some of this judgment, what allows you to do is that it allows you not to lie to yourself. Mm.
Mm.
It allows you not to lie to yourself, right? And the brother spoke about this years ago. I'm 1000% with it. Two people you don't lie to. Definitely. You pay attention because it's nothing but a detriment to you. Don't lie to the most high and don't lie to yourself. Right? Sometimes sometimes people ask you a question and it's almost inviting you to lie. I'm not saying that you do it, but it's a whole different situation when you're lying to yourself, because nothing changes. You can't. I heard someone say you can't same your way to different. So
Mm.
if you sit here and you lie to yourself and you say and you continue this loop, or we continue this pattern, and we're speaking from a place of experience, it's going to continue happening every month, every year. It's the same thing happening around the same time, so pay attention to that. um the brother spoke about these different things. Listen, I'm at this point where I'm thinking people just have, this is this is the advice, if this is the information I'm giving to everybody. This is the information I'm telling people. You need to pause, you need to reflect, and then you need to move forward. Well, Mike, how long should I pause for? I think it take about 12 weeks. I think most of us need to pause for about 12 weeks, but 12 weeks, that's such a long time. Just as sure in and sure out that God allows me and Joe to show up every Friday, it just seems like, man, we was just here. It's happening. So what else? What else do you what? Now I sound like President Trump. What else do you have to lose, people, if you just put a pause on a bunch of this stuff? Because this doing that, and you've been doing, and you've been overdoing, and you've been hustling, and you've been grinding, and you've been like, you just been doing these things, right? Sometimes consciously, sometimes excuse me, intentionally, and sometimes unintentionally, right? But you've been doing a lot. Give yourself a pat on the back. You're a doer. Pause now. Take your 12 weeks. Next 12 weeks, I'm not going to listen to nothing but such and such. Next 12 weeks, I plan to at least finish these 3 or 4 books that I've been looking at, or 1 or 2 books. I'm not right. The next 4 weeks, I'm going to I'm going to go watch the old Community Beacon episodes and see the growth, see what growth looks like over time. The next 12 weeks, I'm not going to take this same pathway. right? I'm going to change my pathway. I'm going to a different gym. I'm going to work out differently. I'm going to eat differently just for the next 12 weeks. And let's just see what happens. And after 12 weeks, we'll see what the game plan is. Right? Like, just so take your 12 weeks. I love the other thing that brother spoke about were these moments. Start to document these moments in your life, these pivotal times. He spoke about having a child. That's a pivotal moment, right? I look back to when I had my first son Elijah, and I said, before Elijah, I can get ready and get out of the house in 15 minutes. After Elijah, I don't know what it is. It takes me about an hour and a half to get up out of this house. E- and that's whether he's here or not. It's just it's something that I recognize. So what were these different? It almost reminds me of another Toastmaster speech I had. I was talking about these different, these different these pathways to me, different trajectories. In that speech I was talking about these different books, right? It went from the autobiography of Malcolm X, that took me to a certain place, and then after the autobiography of Malcolm X, it was uh one that comes to mind is Think and Grow Rich. That took me to a different place. Then there was another, there's another book that take me like it was I would start to go into these different. I saw myself changing, but these were pivotal moments. These were pivotal times, emotionally. Right? Don't discount it. Right? Don't discount. Validate these things. There's some of us who are actively going through traumatic periods in life. We're marking it in our life because it just happened. Like and these things are like this 3 month, 4 month periods that this is actively happening. Something is coming from the outside, it's stimulating us, and it happens over a X amount of time, right? Like we're not gonna call it torture because it's not that, but it's changing you. It's traumatically changing. You think that let's say about a child, right? You think that you have a child, and over in the first 3 to 6 months of that child, if that child does not sleep well at night, or the child is getting up, like, it changes your schedule. It changes your schedule for a good 3 to 6 months at the least, as far as having a newborn child. This is changing you. This is established. It's just a child, and you're not the same. Because if I go look at of a father who had a newborn child from 0 to 6 months, he's not the same person at that 6 month. That child is making these neural pathways, and how he sees it. So we're actively going through these traumatic things that change us. So let's mark this thing down, and let's start to be intentional about it. Okay, well, this is happening. First off, for me, I'm like, okay, well, let me go through this thing with joy. How does that look? Right? Like, what does this look like if
Mhm.
I go through this with joy? What does it look like if I'm kind about this? What if I know this, I'm compassionate about this? What if I know that I'm going through this? I know I ain't get a good night's sleep. I tend to be cranky when I don't get a good night's sleep. I'm gonna avoid certain people because I know this person ain't gonna bring out the best. This person may not bring out the best in me. Like, so these are like little things. These are intentional ways of living life. I'm not gonna harp on. Yeah, who cares, right? Family court. I noticed these things as they were happening. This is anyone who's went through family court. It's 6 months to a year. I remember the judge said that she likes to get these things settled in 180 days. 180 days is a long time. How are you developing yourself throughout this entire time? That way, when it's done, you're not going back. You're not being resentful. You're not being hateful. You a man, darn it. You're not being petty. This is not tit for tat. Stop going tit for tat with these women, these nice young ladies. Don't do it. It's no need. If you're going to react the same way that she's reacting to you, right? If you're going to do that, you might as well be a woman, right? Like, what's the difference? Like, what? Why does
Mm.
she? Why should she look to you any kind of way when you're acting like a girlfriend, one of her girlfriends? right? Like
Mm.
we're different for a reason, and it's a beautiful thing. Stop telling people, "Oh, masculinity is this, it's toxic, whatever." It's not that. We just react differently. Embrace that. Love yourself. I digress. Let me bring it back, Lord. Bring it back. Let me bring it back. How do we know whether or not we're showing up and being present and we're being power? Right? You go to the holy book now. We're going to talk about the fruits of the spirit. Am I exemplifying the fruits of the spirit? Right? I'm gonna read them to you. I got them. I got them down here for you. Don't worry about it. You don't got to go look it up. You could. You should look it up later, but you don't got to do it now. Love. Am I exhibiting love? Am I showing up with it? Am I embracing that? Joy. Am I having joy? That was a tough one for me because I didn't know what joy should look like for me. Right? Like, yeah, I don't want to, does Mike just show up with his mouth just hanging out and smiling all the time? And that's not it don't have to be that way. Like joy to that, but you do take you can take a joke, you can laugh, you can embrace the moment, you can have these warm feelings. So figure out what joy looks like for you. It doesn't have to be this way. I tell people, man, I show up. People know that I'm serious, but I'm joyful. Right? If you sit down here and you have a conversation with Mike off times, like oftentimes my face is gonna be pretty poker like, right? But it's still out of joy. I don't even take I tell people all the time, my kids don't even take me seriously. You know what I mean? They take me seriously as a father, as like, okay, this is a guide or whatever. But oftentimes it's like a big joke, right? It's like here he goes again. You know what I mean? Like here he shows up again. Have that youthful spirit about you. You got peace. Are you at peace? Don't lie to yourself and don't lie to the most high. Right?
Mm.
Oh my God, I am at peace. I told somebody I was like, "Well, do you have peace?" I am at peace. That's how they told me, brother. They were like, "I am at peace."
Doesn't
You
sound like
sure?
peace to me.
Are you
Sound
happy
like a
with that?
storm.
Yeah. Well, if you like it, then I'll be like, well, if you like it, I love it. You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, but don't you can lie to me. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to the Most High. Are you tossing and turning? That's not peaceful. Are you thinking about how you're gonna react when someone says something to you? Oh, he say this to me. I'm gonna say this to him. All right,
Mm.
that ain't peaceful, buddy. Yeah, that's definitely not present. Patience. Man, I got my
Patience.
father to admit something the other day. I started laughing. You know what I mean? This is after 3 months of me just dropping these seeds, and he finally admitted something in regards to a certain politician. And I said, "Man, see what patience do." You know what I mean? Like it's not up to me and if he didn't have it, it wouldn't bother me either. But I'm patient with it. I'm just gonna be patient. I'm just gonna keep giving information. Joel and I have been on here for about 4 years, 4+ years. This is we talk about consistency, but a lot of it is patience as well. Like we just patient. It's happening and it's gonna happen when it's time to happen. Um quick, let me finish this up. Kindness is big. I like that. Gary V
Mhm.
talks about that a lot. Check out Gary V. He says I'm going to build the biggest business because I'm probably the kindest person. You got
Mm.
goodness, you got faithfulness, you got gentleness, and last one is self-control. So, am I showing up with presence and power? Well, are you reaping the fruits of the spirit? I'm not talking about money. I'm not talking about things, earthly things. I'm saying, are you reaping these fruits of the spirit? Are you waking up and we're not perfect, but our overall we know whether we're reaping it or not. We know what our family thinks about us. That's a huge thing, or how we feel around our family. Let me say that, right? How we're showing up. So that's a awesome way to check out this presence and your power, right? These things are it's your own checklist, and you get to decide. You get to check yourself on that. Not me, not Joel, not your boss, not whatever, not your child, not your wife. You, not your husband. You get to check the fruits of the spirit, and you get to
Mm.
make the correction on that. I know the brother said the battery's about to die. We about to end it. You want to last final thoughts?
I love it, man. I love it. I definitely appreciate it. I love to volley some of that stuff back with you. I'll just say this. If any of this stuff spoke to your heart out there, hit the like button for us. Give us a subscribe. You know, for more grounded conversations. Do it. Be a part of this thing. Be all in. Don't just be partly in, right? Don't be in the corner and looking over somebody's shoulder. Come on, make your presence known. There's power in that. And this is a great time to show up. So we appreciate y'all. Thank you for everything, every moment. Mike, man, I love what you brought to the table. Again, as
Likewise, bro.
always, brother, this has been my pleasure.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. Guys, I'm gonna end it like this. Look where you're leaking power, where you're not intentional, where you're unintentional with it. Look where you're not being truly present because you're already coming in with some preconceived assumptions and notions. Think about it because, man, I've been saying this for a while and I hope you all catch it. You know what I mean? We all catching up to it. Like where we want to go next, it's not going to take more of this hustle and this grinding and this doing or whatever, right? And it doesn't need it. Like you're really overdoing it. Literally. And you know how much I don't like over. We're gonna step into, or we're going to, don't even take it back. Just step into it. Be empowered, right? Be present, be aligned, and let's walk what we're talking, right? Not
Mm,
just talk it, but then we're gonna walk what we're talking. We're in the work. Like it is happening right now. So the presence and the power, we were going to put it together. And man, I'm telling you, guys, check out Dominion, take stewardship. Like let's walk in it and just be empowered and be encouraged, man. Love you all. The brother checked off. I know it was longer than I thought. We will see you next week, man. Appreciate you. Peace.